Before a producer hits record or before a journalist picks up a pen, someone like you notices something and wants to understand it. Every day, we invite you to keep asking questions like why and who and how. Because NPR begins with questions, not conclusions. And your right to curiosity is a right worth protecting.
Good morning, I'm Lawrence K. Jackson. It's Thursday, May 21st. Today we'll talk about how grief and PTSD surfaces following a tragic event. More on that next, but first, the headlines. San Diegans could see free parking at Balboa Park by January and lower trash fees by the middle of next year. Yesterday, city leaders announced they reached a legal settlement. A group of homeowners suing the city argued that the new fees were illegal under California law. San Diego City Council member Stephen Whitburn says the trash fee will drop from $55 a month to $38.75.
San Diegans could rejoice at the fact that Balboa Park paid parking will come to an end and the city's trash fees will drop significantly. This is what we can do when we work together for the good of our city.
The agreement also ends any efforts by the group of homeowners to repeal the fees by way of a ballot measure this upcoming fall. But this leaves the city to find other ways of supplementing the loss in revenue as fiscal year 2027's tense budget process approaches its final weeks. The San Diego County Board of Supervisors has officially voted 3-0 in support of expanding a Medi-Cal pilot program. The pilot is called the California Advancing and Innovating Medi-Cal Initiative, or CalAIM. The county says the initiative's overall goal is to move people currently experiencing homelessness into housing by covering costs for things like security deposits. Supervisor Montgomery Stepp says CalAIM also looks to identify any cost-saving opportunities before service cuts happen. Supervisor Paloma Aguirre says the program is a sensible way of shifting costs and preserving services, adding that the board will be able to gauge the initiative's success in 1 year. A German-based soccer team has chosen San Diego's own Chula Vista as the official home for its first U.S. academy. FC Bayern Munich recently shared news of its partnership with the Chula Vista Elite Athlete Training Center. The training center already helps Olympic and Paralympic athletes train and prepare for Team USA. And now it will also have a hand in developing some of the next generation of elite soccer talent. Chula Vista Mayor John McCann said the partnership, quote, reflects years of relationship building, trust, and a shared commitment to developing athletes at the highest level. From KPBS, you're listening to San Diego News Now. Stay with me for more of the local news you need.
May is Mental Health Awareness Month, a time to recognize the importance of mental health and ensure children and families know they are not alone. Hi, I'm Dr. Cheryl Rohde, President and CEO of San Diego Center for Children. For nearly 140 years, San Diego Center for Children has been meeting families through challenging times and walking alongside them to support their needs. We offer the region's most comprehensive continuum of evidence-based mental health care, including early intervention, outpatient therapies, family support services, therapeutic education, and residential treatment. When children and teens face mental or behavioral health challenges, families turn to us for help and hope. Visit centerforchildren.org to learn more.
As the Islamic Center of San Diego reopens, survivors and families of the victims of Monday's deadly shooting there now face another difficult reality: the emotional trauma left behind. Reporter Heidi DeMarco has more on how grief and PTSD can surface in the days and weeks after a tragedy.
Hundreds gathered Tuesday night at Lindbergh Neighborhood Park next to the Islamic Center of San Diego, praying, grieving, and leaning on one another after a shooting investigators are calling a possible hate crime. Research shows trauma can surface in ways people may not immediately recognize. Survivors may experience anxiety, trouble sleeping, or physical symptoms like headaches and exhaustion. The American Psychological Association says to lean on support systems rather than isolate. The Islamic Center reopened Wednesday. Faith leaders encouraged worshipers to return together, despite the fear and heartbreak left behind. Heidi DeMarco, KPBS News.
Governor Gavin Newsom included $40 million in his May budget revise for religious institutions and other nonprofits to enhance security. Reporter John Carroll says 2 San Diego City Council members have been asking him to do that since January.
Newsom put out his May revise last week, just days before the deadly shootings at the San Diego Islamic Center. At a Wednesday news conference, San Diego City Council members Marnie Von Wilpert and Raul Campillo thanked the governor for including the money, something they've been calling for since January. Now they're asking all of us to call our state legislators and demand they include the $40 million in their final budget. Here's Campillo.
State Assembly needs to take this seriously. They need to walk through Temple Emmanuel and Tifereth Israel and the Chabad of East County in my district and see the guards and see the gates and see the cameras that these institutions have to put up. Or they can just walk into the Islamic Center of San Diego and meet the friends and family that are weeping over their dead fathers.
State lawmakers are required to pass a balanced budget by midnight on June 15th. John Carroll, KPBS News.
The target of Monday's mass shooting was not only the largest mosque in San Diego, but also home to a school for pre-K to third grade students. Penner fellow Emmy Burris has more on how parents can talk about the San Diego Islamic Center shooting with young kids.
As many as 140 children were within 15 feet of the 2 gunmen during the attack on the Islamic Center of San Diego, according to the center's Iman Taha Hassan.
I felt a bit scared. My legs were shaking in my hands. And my head was hurting me a lot. I felt like a rock.
That was a student from the center's Bright Horizon Academy speaking to Reuters. In Kavod Charter School is just down the road. 5 San Diego Unified schools in the area went on lockdown. Dr. David Schoenfeld is a pediatrician and director of the National Center for School Crisis and Bereavement at the Children's Hospital Los Angeles.
I really think you have to say to kids, this has happened in our community, or you may have heard about this in the news. What's your understanding and what questions do you have? And then you can go into how does that make you feel?
Dr. Schoenfeld said that adults may not have all the answers, especially as the investigation of the shooting unfolds. But the simple presence of an adult can provide comfort. Emmy Burris, KPBS News.
San Diego County leaders declined to vote today on closing San Pasqual Academy. Education reporter Katie Anastas says advocates urged the Board of Supervisors to seek more public input.
Last week, county staff published a proposal to, quote, wind down San Pasqual Academy's residential program for foster youth. The academy has offered an on-campus high school, therapeutic services, and life skills training since 2001. Changes in the foster care system have led to fewer students getting placed there and less state and federal funding to support it. County staff spent 3 months gathering public input on what to do next. Alfredo Guardado directs the county's Office of Child and Family Well-Being.
Discussions highlighted declining youth numbers, limited regional partnerships, and funding as the major barriers to expansion. This led to a consensus that without a larger youth population, the academy cannot remain sustainable as a residential campus in its current form.
Advocates for the school say they need a chance to respond to that proposal. Shane Harris is a civil rights activist who graduated from the academy.
This is about whether decisions impacting vulnerable young people are made with them or simply made for them.
The Board of Supervisors directed staff to seek additional public input on the potential closure, including from current students. Staff will report back within 90 days. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
Last month, KPBS reported on a controversy in San Diego's bike racing community related to transgender athletes. Metro reporter Andrew Bowen continues to follow that issue and spoke with anchor Deb Welsh to share an update.
Andrew, if you would, remind us what the San Diego Velodrome is and what you reported last month. Yeah, the San Diego Velodrome is a 333-meter racetrack in Balboa Park. It's owned by the city of San Diego, but it is run by a nonprofit called the San Diego Velodrome Association. And earlier this year, they decided to start hosting races that are sanctioned by USA Cycling. Now, USA Cycling is the national governing body for bike racing, and as of September, that organization prohibits trans women from competing in women's races. So this created some controversy because while the velodrome has historically welcomed trans women into women's races, these USA Cycling races fell under a different organization's rule book. I spoke with a trans woman named Talia who races at the velodrome. We agreed to use only her first name due to her fears of anti-trans harassment and violence. And she said she was hurt by this decision to host USA Cycling races.
I know that most of the people nearby who are pushing for it are not doing it to exclude trans people, but the fact that they see the benefits of it justifying the discrimination against trans people is very disheartening.
Now, you reported that the first USA Cycling race at the Velodrome in years took place on April 4th. What happened at that race?
There was a women's race on April 4th. You needed a USA Cycling license to enter, and under USA Cycling rules, trans women were not allowed to participate in that race. However, the Velodrome said it did not adopt or administer these USA Cycling rules. It said it's not responsible for enforcing those rules, and it would not do so. Ultimately, no trans women sought to participate, and no one was turned away from the event. So the Velodrome Association leadership says no discrimination has taken place.
So what happened since your story was published?
Well, the Velodrome Association has gotten a lot of feedback from its members, and on May 8th, they held a virtual town hall meeting. Sorry, that was May 9th, actually, to discuss this issue. And in that meeting, the Velodrome Association president presented what he thinks is a reasonable compromise. So going forward, they plan on administering all USA Cycling races as gender-neutral open races, and this would allow anyone of any gender to compete in any of the races. However, they will still advertise some of those races as women's races. So the expectation is racers will just sort themselves into the category that matches their gender identity. Trans women will still be allowed to race against cisgender women because under USA Cycling rules, the race is technically gender neutral.
How is the velodrome community responding to this compromise?
Well, some racers really want to keep USA Cycling at the velodrome, and that's because these races get you upgrade points that allow you to compete nationally. These racers support this new approach and see it as reasonable and fair. Others feel that any collaboration with USA Cycling just goes against their values and makes the velodrome complicit in anti-trans discrimination. Another point I've heard is that setting aside this gender policy, the presence of USA Cycling simply spoils what people love about the velodrome. If you go on a Tuesday night, which is their biggest racing night, it's a really informal, fun-loving atmosphere. And USA Cycling is this outside organization that's more about competition than recreation in their eyes, and they say that just kills the vibe. There's one last point. For my last story, I spoke with a civil rights attorney who said that hypothetically, if a trans woman were turned away from a women's race at the velodrome, she could sue under California anti-discrimination laws. And she said both the Velodrome Association and the city could face liability. And the association could even potentially lose access to the track because of the anti-discrimination terms in their permit with the city. That was just one lawyer's opinion. There doesn't appear to be any plaintiff with standing to sue, and so with this new compromise in place, a lawsuit does not seem likely.
Interesting. If you could tell me where the velodrome is.
It's in the Morley Field Sports Complex in Balboa Park.
All right, very good. Thank you much. I've been speaking with KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen. Andrew, again, thank you for the update.
Thank you, Deb.
New border wall construction near Tecate is causing an international controversy. Reporter Gustavo Solis says construction crews are destroying parts of a mountain that's sacred to the Kumeyaay people.
The Kumeyaay name for Tecate Peak is Cuchama Mountain, and to them, the area along the U.S.-Mexico border near the Mexican city of Tecate is a sacred place. Norma Mesa Calles has spent her entire life around the mountain. She can tell you which plants cure an upset stomach and which ones help you fall asleep.
La montaña es como un psicólogo para nosotros.
Mesa says that the mountain is like a therapist for the Kumeyaay. People hike up the mountain, sit on the smooth white boulders, and meditate. As a little girl, she remembers seeing grown-ups spend multiple days in silent contemplation up on that mountain, usually after a difficult divorce or a death in the family.
Cuando se le moría un divorcio, su familia, enfermo.
But some of those sacred stones, boulders that have been on that mountain for more than 100 million years, are gone, pulverized, to make way for a new section of President Donald Trump's border wall.
Y es muy importante la montaña que están destruyendo.
It's being destroyed before our eyes, Mesa says. Cuchama Mountain is technically protected in the National Register of Historic Places. Yet, this construction project was approved without a formal environmental review, which is normally required by the National Environmental Policy Act. Richard Kai is president of the Institute of the Americas.
In recent years, what has happened is that the Department of Homeland Security has been able to secure successfully through legal means waivers on some of these border projects. And Congress has actually authorized multi-year funding for the border fence, which has allowed some of these projects to be fast-tracked.
Kai used to work for the EPA on cross-border affairs during the Clinton administration. He says the stones on Cuchama Mountain may have been saved had there been a typical review.
That would have allowed for considerations related to the cultural significance of Mount Cuchama.
He understands why the Trump administration waived these requirements. The process can take years and derail projects. For example, it took 10 years to complete a review of the CBX airport border crossing in Otay Mesa. But Kai says skipping these reviews altogether is a missed opportunity to potentially find eco-friendly alternatives.
In the 21st century, I think there are ways to explore technology solutions so that we can have a secure border, but at the same time address some of the biodiversity concerns and cultural heritage concerns.
Like Norma Mesa, Damian Vega grew up near the mountain. Vega works for the Rancho La Puerta Foundation, an organization that helped create a conservation easement on the Mexican side of the border. And part of that work involves teaching local children about the mountain.
That's the things that the kids learned here in the trail, and they also learn to meditate along with the walk. But all of these activities are stopped right now because how can they meditate with the noises that we have and the construction that we have in front of their eyes?
The foundation worked with multiple organizations in Mexico to conduct their own environmental feasibility study. They looked at everything from wildlife, natural habitats, vegetation, cultural sites, and even the risk of mudslides. Part of what makes this construction project so heartbreaking for the people of Tecate is that they thought they'd done enough to protect it. Vega says that in the early 2000s, the Kumeyaay people and local conservationists worked hard with their counterparts in the U.S. to secure environmental protections on both sides of the border.
Through an MOU with the Bureau of Land Management, the BLM, and with the Forestry Department, we also try to convince them to protect the land, and we agree, both of the sides, both of the nations. So all of the mountain is protected in terms of nature and biodiversity.
Baja California Secretary of Culture has asked the United States to stop detonating explosives on the mountain. And Mexico President Claudia Sheinbaum said in a press conference in April that her administration is looking into the matter. Meanwhile, in Tecate, Mesa does not expect construction to stop. She respects U.S. sovereignty and its right to defend their border, but views this episode as one more indignity for her people to overcome.
De por sí, desde cuando hemos sido pisoteados, hemos sido discriminados, hemos sido, pues, al final y hemos resistido nosotros. Y también la montaña está resistiendo porque es una...
She says that the Kumeyaay people in Baja California have been stepped on and discriminated against most of her life. And through it all, they've always resisted. And the mountain will resist too. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
That's it for the podcast today. As always, you can find more San Diego news online at kpbs.org. I'm Lawrence K. Jackson. Thanks for listening and subscribing. By doing so, you're supporting public media, and I want to thank you for that. Have a great day.
KPBS On Demand is supported by Bill Howe Plumbing, Heating and Air, Flood and Restoration Services. Family owned and operated for over 46 years, Bill Howe has been serving San Diego homeowners with home services since 1980. Bill Howe's full-service team offers heating and air solutions along with dedicated flood and restoration services and an expert plumbing team. Their trained professionals are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to respond to both routine needs and unexpected emergencies. Bill Howe is committed to providing excellent communication, transparent pricing, and quality workmanship on every job. Appointments can be scheduled by phone, online, or through live chat at their website. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com because we know how.